I'm going to read Iran says warships sailing towards U.S. agency. An Iranian naval an, Ira, Ira, an Iranian naval officer said a number of warships have been ordered to approach U.S. maritime borders as a response to the stationing of U.S. vessels in the Gulf. The semi-official Fars news agency reported on Saturday. Iran's military fleet is approaching the United States maritime borders, and this move has a message. The agency quoted as saying, Hadid, described as commander of the Iranian Navy's Northern Fleet, said the vessels had started their voyage towards the Atlantic Ocean via waters near South Africa, Fars reported. Fars said the plan was part of Iran's response to Washington's beefed-up naval presence in the Persian Gulf. The Fars report, which carried no details of the vessels, could not be confirmed independently. In Washington, a U.S. defense official speaking on the condition of anonymity cast doubt on any claims that the Iranian ships were approaching U.S. maritime borders, but the official added that ships are free to operate in international waters. The United States and its allies regularly stage naval exercises in Gulf, saying they want to ensure freedom of navigation in a waterway through which 40% of the world's seaborne oil exports passes. U.S. military facilities in the region include a base for its Fifth Fleet, a base for its Fifth Fleet in the Gulf Arab Kingdom of Iran sees the Gulf as its own backyard and believes it has a legitimate interest in expanding its influence there. Iranian officials have often said Iran could block the Strait of Hormuz at the mouth of the Gulf if it came under military attack over its disputed nuclear program, and the Western war games are seen in the region as an attempt to deter any such move. Fars said the Iranian Navy had been developing its presence in international waters since 2010, regularly launching vessels in the Indian Ocean and the Gulf of Aden to protect Iranian ships from pirates operating in the area. I'm now reading about China describes U.S. comment on South China Sea as not constructive. China has accused the United States of undermining peace and development in the Asia-Pacific after a senior U.S. official said concern was mounting over China's claims in the South China Sea. These actions are not constructive. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman said in a statement issued late on Saturday, We urge the U.S. to hold a rational and fair attitude so as to have a constructive role in the peace and development of the region, and not the opposite, they said. U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs Danny Russell told the Congressional testimony on Wednesday, the United States had growing concerns that China's maritime claims were an effort to gain gripping control of oceans in the region. China's claims had created uncertainty, insecurity, and instability, Russell said. China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Taiwan, Malaysia, and India all claim parts of the sea that provides 10% of global fish catches and carries 5 trillion in shipborne trade. China also railed against what they called outrageous comments on Friday by Philippine President who compared the maritime dispute with appeasement of Nazi Germany before World War II. China claims about 90% of the 3.5 million square km South China Sea, depicting what it sees as its area on maps with so-called 9-dash line, looping far out over the sea from South China. I'm now going to read Iran agreed. No, not this one. It just disappeared. I'm going to read about U.S. A plan seeks to shield Afghanistan from end to war economy. The Obama administration will unveil on Monday a package of initiatives it hopes will help Afghanistan, still one of the world's poorest countries after a dozen years of massive international aid efforts, shield itself from a departure of foreign troops and an expected drop in assistance. The announcement from the U.S. Agency for International Development (USAID) of 3 new development initiatives worth almost $300 million is part of a U.S. effort to ensure that Afghanistan, as its war economy ends, won't slide backwards into greater poverty or reverse gains made over the last 12 years in health, education, and other areas. The question is, what can we do now to make sure Afghanistan is as healthy, sustainable, and feasible as possible going forward? The agency's chief official for Afghanistan and Pakistan said in an interview. The initiative extends U.S. assistance for Afghanistan's food sector, seek to help the Afghan government boost revenue and join the World Trade Organization within a year, and secure agreements between U.S. and Afghan universities to ensure young Afghans are trained for jobs. But how much outside help aid-reliant Afghanistan will receive in the years ahead remains in doubt, as uncertainty continues about the possible post-2014 NATO troop presence, and as fiscal pressures in donor nations squeeze aid budgets. Last month, U.S. lawmakers have civilian aid for Afghanistan, reflecting growing reluctance in Congress to continue generous aid levels there. concerns about waste and fraud, and frustration with the Afghan government itself. The Obama administration the Obama administration continues to press Afghan president to sign a bilateral security pact needed to keep U.S. troops there after this year. Needed to keep U.S. troops there after this year. His refusal to do so has trend already fraught U.S. to Afghan relations. Decisions by the United States on future aid levels to Afghanistan may in turn shape actions by other donor nations, which gathered in Tokyo in 2012 to announce their intentions to provide aid to Afghanistan for years to come. While the United States did not pledge a specific amount for future aid, it has promised to seek aid near current levels of just over $2 billion at least through 2015. Economic buffer. U.S. officials said the new initiatives would not be affected by the recent budget cut because they will set aside money now for the 4 or 5 years they are designed to last. Samplers say the initiatives will aim, in part, to provide a buffer as the world economy winds down. A buffer as the world economy winds down. To provide the buffer as the world economy winds down. To provide the buffer as the world economy winds down. As foreign troops leave, so will the contractors and service providers supporting military operations and the knock-on economic activity they have created since 2001. There is going to be a lure. In the economy, and we want to minimize that lure, he said. Andrew Wilder, who directs Afghanistan and Pakistan programs at the U.S. Institute of Peace, said the focus of the new programs on regional trade and the rural economy made sense given the difficult and painful economic transition Afghanistan will face in coming years. However, realizing this potential will largely be dependent on relative peace and stability in Afghanistan and a significant improvement in Indo-Pak relations, which unfortunately both still seem like enormous obstacles to overcome, Wilder said. Under the new USAID programs, $125 million will go to Afghanistan's food and farm sector, traditionally the base of its economy. While aid programs have poured millions of dollars into the farm sector since 2001, poor roads and Afghanistan's landlocked position in Central Asia make food exports difficult. Samplers said the new programs would Sampler said the new programs would focus more on agribusiness and on getting crops to market than in the past. Another 77 million, another 77 million, another 77 million 4-year program will seek to open Afghanistan up to greater international trade and investment, and to improve tax and revenue collection. Sampler said Afghanistan may be able join the World Trade Organization in late 2014 or early 2015. Trade Organization join the World Trade Organization in late 2014 or early 2015, which could give its economy a boost. A final program worth almost 100 million would seek to help 10 Afghan universities give young people the practical skills they need to work in the private and public sectors, in partnership with free U.S. universities. Aiding Jessica and Robert. I'm going to read about Russia's Putin to visit Japan. Russia's Putin to visit Japan, ties with Tokyo warming. Russian president agreed on Saturday to visit Japan in the autumn, fueling hopes of progress. Fueling hopes of progress on a territorial dispute dating back to World War II that is hampering trade. At talks during the Winter Olympics in Sochi, Putin and Japanese Prime Minister Abe greeted each other warmly and held the speed at which relations between their countries were improving. In contrast to Tokyo's strained ties with Beijing, agreement is not close in a dispute over the ownership of 4 Pacific islands, but the two leaders have held five summits in the last 13 months and agreed in Moscow last April to revive talks on a treaty which would unblock trade and business ties. Since I visited Russia, the past has been very fast. We want to keep up the pace. Abe told a news conference at which he announced Putin's visit to Japan, but set no exact date. Agreeing a peace treaty is the most difficult challenge, a historic mission. We should not leave this to the next generation. to the next generation, to the next generation, to the next generation, to the next, to the next, to the next generation. The islands northeast of are known as the Southern in Russia and the Northern Territories in Japan. The Soviet Union seized them after it declared war on Japan in August 1945, forcing 17,000 Japanese, forcing 17,000 Japanese to flee days before Japan surrendered. Contrast with China, Abe, who will also see Putin at the summit of the group of 8 industrial powers in Sochi in June, came to the Winter Olympics in a show of support for Putin. Several other world leaders, including U.S. President Barack Obama, did not attend the game's opening ceremony. After international criticism of Putin's record on gay rights, Putin responded to Abe's gesture by making clear he was committed to strengthening ties with Tokyo, praising peace treaty on the islands. We have seen a good environment created that could help resolve the most difficult problem in bilateral relations, Putin said before talks began. Abe's relationship with Putin stands in marked contrast to Japan's sharply deteriorating ties with China and South Korea, involving spats over tiny uninhabited islands. Although Abe said the Japanese door to China is always open, Russia has been strengthening political and energy ties with Beijing, and President Xi Jinping also attended the start of the Games in Sochi. But Moscow is also uneasy about China's rise and is keen to strengthen energy and trade ties in Asia. Putin made an official visit to Japan in 2005 during his initial 2000 to 2008 presidency, and visited again as Prime Minister in 2009. Abe's visit in April was the first official visit to Moscow by a Japanese Prime Minister in a decade. Abe and Putin have not let the island dispute block progress in diplomacy, centering on natural gas and other natural resources. By contrast, the leaders of Chinese and Korean leaders have rebuffed Abe's repeated calls to meet. Some Russian oil flows are being directed to Asia via the East Pacific Ocean pipeline. Russia plans to at least double oil and gas flows to Asia over the next 20 years as it turns away from export routes to Europe. Japan sees this as an opportunity. It has been forced to import huge volumes of fossil fuel to replace its entire nuclear power industry, shut down after the 2001 earthquake and tsunami wrecked the Fuji Plains. Japan now consumes a third of global liquefied natural gas shipments, a key reason for its record 18 months of trade deficits. Russian gas lies on Japan's doorstep and already makes up about a tenth of its LNG imports. I'm going to read Pope to South Korea more likely to honor martyrs. A trip to South Korea this summer by Pope Francis appeared much more likely after the Vatican said Saturday that he has approved honoring as martyrs 124 Koreans who were among thousands who perished for their faith in Korea in the 18th and 19th centuries. Francis gave the authorization. Francis gave the authorization a day earlier, the Vatican said, paving the way for the 124 martyrs to be beatified in a solemn ceremony. Beatification is the last formal step before sainthood in the Catholic Church. The martyrs were killed out of hatred to the faith in Korea, the Vatican said. Last month, the Vatican said a papal trip to South Korea in August was under consideration. The development about the beatification makes a pilgrimage by Francis there increasingly likely, said a Vatican affiliated missionary news agency. It said August 15th was the likely date for a beatification. It said August 15 was the likely date for a beatification ceremony to be led by Francis, and that the special Mass for the reunification of the two Koreas is also in the planning, indicating that the visit by Francis could stretch out over several days. Francis has made recognition a theme of his near-year-old papacy. Catholics in Asia have long been a minority, with the Philippines the most notable exception. The Vatican sees the Asia continent as a place for strong growth. On Saturday, the pontiff was invited to visit Lanka, meeting with a group of Sri Lankan Catholics at the Vatican. Francis referred to that country's quarter century of civil war when he told his audience that Many tears have been shed in recent years on account of the internal conflict which caused so many victims and so much damage. He urged he urged he urged Sri Lankans to take up the difficult challenge of healing wounds and cooperating with yesterday's enemy to build tomorrow together. Sri Lanka's cardinal took the occasion to invite Francis to his homeland.